What do you think is the kind of the there's been a sort of a movement to go back to making pilsners. This is for me, and I guess Jamil, it's an American craft beer centered discussion. For George, it's very different, but American craft brewers have now gone back to making pilsners, making lagers. Do you think it's a question of that? They're trying to show that, you know what, we do have our fundamentals, or
No,
is it just following a flavor of the month because people like them?
So I was talking to Steve from Sierra Nevada, and he was drinking our Helles Lager, and I said, a lot of breweries should just not be making. Because a lot of them are doing it because it's all of a sudden trendy, and that's what people, that's because a couple of good ones came out, and everyone's like, I'll jump on that bandwagon too. And it's like, you do not have the fermentation skill to make a lager. Stop. You shouldn't be poisoning the market like you're doing.
So some people shouldn't be making certain kinds of beers. Namely me, I don't homebrew. In Japan, I don't.
Even though you own the book,
you can make whatever you want. You're not.
As long as it's under 1%.
No, you don't have a brewery that you're standing behind.
But especially with lagers, we mostly know lagers from German or Czech heritage, and anyone who knows people who brewed in Germany or in the Czech Republic as well will tell you that they're very disciplined about their lagers. And I totally understand what Jamil's saying. If you're making these beers without years of training or very disciplined fermentation, you make a very not watered down version, but an inferior version of what these really traditional beers have been making. And so, like, when you make your Helles, you pitch way more. You pitch crazy amounts of yeast into it, right?
No, it may seem crazy to some, but it's not necessarily. It's making sure that we have, the right amount of yeast. We've got extremely healthy yeast, that we've paid attention to our nutrients and our oxygen additions, and
so for a new pitch, you buy way more than a.
Generally we'll buy so for like a 30 barrel batch, we'll get a 60 barrel or 90 barrel pitch from the suppliers. But it's very important, that and fermentation protocol. So we'll start around 8 to 10 C, and we'll go up from there. Actually, we'll go closer to 7 to 8. And then we'll let it rise to 10, and then each day we'll let it rise a little bit more. We'll go through fermentation fairly cold, and then it rises at the end. We get a very clean beer that has very low levels of diacetyl and acetaldehyde. And, it's those little things that make the difference between something really kind of green and sour or buttery or not fully attenuated. Common things I taste in a lot of the lagers that are out there. And those are things that keep it from being crisp, or, people sometimes will say, that green apple, that raw apple type of character, that's unripe apples. It's crisp. No, it's like unripe apple, it's sour. It's not crisp, and there's half attenuated, and it's crazy.
Who are we talking to in this video? Are we talking to beer geeks, or we're talking to everybody, or we're talking to Johnny Cash's friends? Who are we talking to?
They will take this home and they will watch it themselves, and that's it. That's their audience.
Because Jamil just talked about lagers, and it's a funny thing that people look at lager, non-brewers, and your average drinker, it's a cheap beer. It's the lowest level of beer, which is like so far from the truth.
Yeah.
And you just hear Jamil talking. Obviously, it's that technical stuff beyond the people who are not brewers. But yeah, these are incredibly complicated. They take a long time to make.
Yeah.
Well,
Time and attention.
and
as
Yeah,
well.
the time and attention is crazy,
And
much
the-
more
Like
so.
alive.
and what happened was, the big brewers who had perfected this, a long time ago and were really making great lagers, they started to say, well, what is it that keeps people from, getting more customers? Well, it's got too much flavor, so let's lighten it up. Let's thin it out. Let's add rice or corn. Let's make it sweeter. Let's make it less malty. Let's make it less hoppy. So they started dumbing it down as much as they could, and lo and behold, they were able to capture the world market, right? With this almost watery, alcohol, which hard seltzer, water and alcohol, and
Dumbed down version, but also cost down version. So they made it extremely cheap.
Well, they made it extremely cheap because of their economy of scale. Because for a lot of these brewers, adding something like rice costs more than malt. They can get the malt cheaper than they get the rice, but they add the rice because they're looking for a lighter flavor. So the extra cost is worth it to them. So they're really brewing something that takes great technical skill, and to do it consistently, and to do it cheaply. Enough to be able to sell a suitcase full of the cans for 50 cents a can or 25 cents a can in the U.S. is crazy. It's very difficult to do. So it's not that they are making bad beer. It's that they are choosing, or their marketing people are choosing to produce a low flavor beer that they can produce at a very attractive price. That's what they're doing. They make this choice. It's not they can't do it. They choose to do it. So, and maybe that's
what
much
the
worse.
consumer wants, or
Right.
some of the consumers
Right.
want.
That's what the majority of consumers want. Are they bad for doing that then? Nah, I don't know. I don't think so. I think they just make a different
It's what
choice
they
than the rest of us.
wanted for sure,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
still to a degree want, but it is lessening over time.
But I'm not here to tell anyone to drink the beer that I like to drink. They should drink the beer they like to drink. If
Right.
that is true, here's one of the things that drives me up the wall about craft beer and domestic beer. Everyone assumes that the people who are drinking, mass market American light lager in the U.S. right now chose it. That they decided, they've tasted every beer and that's what they like. No, that's not true. So when they go into a place like ours, or other craft beer bars, the conventional wisdom is, you should give them something as light as possible so it's close to Bud, Miller, Coors, right? Give them your blonde ale. Huge mistake. You don't want to do that because they haven't chosen that. Show them something, and don't show them something that's a weak comparison to what they're already drinking. Show them something that has so much flavor to it that it changes their mind about beer.
Right.
Give them the Imperial Stout. Give them the Triple IPA. Give them the bourbon barrel aged, the sour. Give them something completely out there. Blow their minds. Make them go like, this is beer? It's like, yes. Let me tell you about beer. Beers from malt, and here's all these different kinds of malt. And they go, well, why didn't I ever taste this before? I've done this multiple times, and people are just blown away. They're like, I didn't know this existed. Now that I do, this is what I want to drink. I want to explore all this. If I had given them an American wheat, they'd be like, well, it's not as good as what I'm already drinking. Why am I going to pay 3 times as much? So that's one of the things. Everyone assumes that people that are drinking these other beers selected them because they tasted everything else. They haven't tasted anything else.
Right.
They grew up just drinking
They
that.
grew up drinking it, right?
Exactly.
And it's the same with in Japan, like Asahi Super Dry is the king. It's actually a very well made beer. It's really difficult
And
to
there's
make
nothing
something
wrong
that
with it.
light.
If somebody's tasted that and tasted a bunch of craft beer and they decide they like the Asahi Super Dry, I have no
Fine.
problem with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Please drink the beer you enjoy the most.
Exactly.
Don't drink a beer because you think somebody else thinks you should drink that beer. Taste them all. Try the craft beers. Try all the mass market beers. And then pick the one you like the best.
I want to get my friend who only drinks Asahi Super Dry, only Bud Light.
Yeah.
What do I give them the first for
The
craft beer?
most
What would you?
intense beer you could find. I would give them
Primo Diablo.
Primo Diablo. Give them, the Eclipse Imperial Stout. Give them something with a lot of flavor. Something where it's so different, that you need to explain all that went into it.
Mm-hmm.
And they will be like, wow, that's amazing.
Awesome.